everyone. Welcome to the EVM61 podcast brought to you by ETC Core and ETC Labs. In this series of podcasts, we'll talk about Ethereum Classic news, general things happening around the Ethereum stack, and interviews with fabulous people and projects in the industry. And speaking of fabulous people, we have James Wo, who is the founder of ETC Labs. How are you doing, James?
I'm good. Hello, everyone.
Cool. So, as some people may or may not know, you're the founder of ETC Labs, and ETH Denver just happened, and ETC Labs and a bunch of ETC people showed up to that. So, maybe you could tell us about your role in ETC Labs and how the incubator is going, and also what's happened around ETH Denver. How did that go?
Sure. I think, our ETC Lab is fully committed to enrich the ecosystem of Ethereum Classic. And since we have that kind of vision, I started companies, I think the incubator, more than a year ago. And we already successfully, doing two coherent supporting and investing 20 different projects built on top of Ethereum Classic. And meanwhile, we are able to, build out a partnership with different kind of projects, different kind of organizations in and outside the industry. And so right now we are still looking for a great project to invest for the Coherence 3, and we are looking for, just cooperating with more exciting project. And also, meanwhile, we have also ETC Core, which is the team have a lot of great developers working on interesting project and managing the Ethereum Classic protocol. Speaking of the conference, it's actually a really amazing conference. It's not a very big one, but also a lot of but really a decent one. We can see a lot of developers join the hackathon. And this is pretty interesting. We have a lot of great developers competing for the prize. And for ETC course, we have to a few great developers, provide us the mentor, actually leaded the team to win the prize for the hackathon, which is amazing. And for me also, I joined a panel with a bunch of other guys with Zcash, SM 2.0, Banker, and Neo Protocol. We talk about a lot of interoperability between different protocol and blockchain, and we talk about the futures, DeFi kind of use cases as well. We fully committed to on the panel, and also offsite, we are able to build a lot of partnership, and we are fully committed to working on a lot of interesting DeFi project with different partners as well. As you can see that at the DevCon, we just gave out a partnership with ETC Labs and Gitcoins. So we are there to sponsor a different interesting project built on top of Ethereum Classic. And we also and in this week, I'm sure that we are able to, we probably will give out an announcement with Chainlink. This is really also exciting and project which done the integration with Ethereum Classic, and we are working with them as well. And we are in the middle of talking to a bunch of other projects that we will give probably more formal announcement later. So overall, I think the infrastructure level of ETC is really strong and solid. It's fully comparable with Ethereum. And we right now for ETC Lab, we are searching and partner with a lot of great use cases and great kind of solutions, and even killer apps which will provide good service to the customers. We are looking for that part to make sure that the whole ecosystem of Ethereum Classic becomes better and better.
No, that's super awesome to hear. And something I noticed is, the ETC Labs team was ETC Labs, ETC Core, and just a bunch of other ETC supporters were all at ETH Denver, and it was kind of like a big statement, and especially with what you mentioned, Gitcoin, Chainlink, and you know, like a lot of people associate that with Ethereum, but you know, of course, ETC Labs is invested in Ethereum Classic, and the huge turnout at ETH Denver. I think it shows that you know, it doesn't matter if you're particularly Ethereum or Ethereum Classic, like as far as compatibility and especially the forks we had, it shows a real good statement that, you know, we could show up at events, we could collaborate together. And, you know, if someone has a great project, you know, we're all building on the EVM at the end of the day. And we all could advance, you know, like just the whole Ethereum stack together. And you mentioned that you're on a panel in ETH Denver. Can you tell us a little about that panel and maybe what your thoughts were on the topic?
Yes, the panel is very interesting. It's actually, you know, focused on the more like community side and the integrity side. I think, you know, what I say on the panel is, you know, ETC Lab is open to cooperate with different kind of partners in the industry. And for example, like we announced the Gitcoin thing. I also mentioned that part on the panel as well. And also, ETC Lab is fully committed to the different kind of supporting different kind of DeFi project. So also, I also, you know, share a little bit about our update and progress that made about the MakerDAO. So we are working this actually for months about, you know, deploying makers on Ethereum Classic network. So I expect that the all the work will be done by early March, and then we will kind of be able to use the platform to provide a service to the customer. I think this is really interesting for the, you know, the one of the most interesting things actually in the DeFi industry. I think for this kind of lending business, what we can see from the you know the ecosystem is we have a lot of Ethereum Classic miners. They have huge need for deposit their Ethereum Classic and borrow some fiat to pay their electricity fees. So this is some, you know, areas that we can provide really good service to them and make sure the, you know, the use cases really works here. So this is really a nice kind of use cases we are working on right now. But, you know, we are still seeking for others in different, you know, categories, the different kind of aspect in the DeFi industry as well. For example, stablecoin, for example, DEX, different kind of exchange also. And also I'm able to, you know, on a panel discuss a little bit kind of integrity with the banker guys. And I think that there will be also interesting things to do in the future.
That's cool. And, you know, DeFi is quite the buzz right now. It seems like it's just something I noticed, especially with Ethereum Classic. It's like one of the ultimate. It's arguably like the ultimate base layer, and it's great. And as far as DeFi deploying on Ethereum Classic, you know, proof of work is amazing for transactions, and it's long proven. And then also from, I think when we see like DeFi growing, um, and you know, like when you say servicing miners and stuff too, like that, I like to maybe talk about where like with DeFi being a trend now, like where do you think the I guess from a high level perspective, where do you think like the industry is going, or what kind of trends do you see maybe in dApps or as far as maybe some of these startup trends?
Yes, I think first of all, DeFi is definitely a promising future. That's without a doubt. We can see Ethereum on the Ethereum network, there's like more than $1 billion equal of Ethereum has been locked up in different kind of DeFi project. So without a doubt, I think this is really a promising future. It's definitely the next killer app. overall. But since we, to be very honest, for the whole industry, we are not able to solve the scalability issues, at least for now. So a lot of use cases in the DeFi industry are not able to provide a good enough service to the customers because of that problem. It may influence part of some of the category of the DeFi, maybe DEX, but for lending, probably even without solving the scalability issues, with lending still works on different kind of network. And this is one problem we have to solve to improve their ability for us to provide a service, their scalability issues. So actually, ETC Lab is working closely with the project called Swarm, and it's a project with long histories. We support and fund the project to provide us a storage solutions to solve the scalability issues. We are fully committed to that. Another thing what I see for DeFi to grow to the next kind of level or generation is is that able for the DeFi service to provide enough product and good enough uh, service to the clients, which centralized finance system fail to provide. Otherwise, with I believe with the most there, I think that the lot of problem in the centralized finance system is that you don't have a lot of trust for different kind of unlicensed platform, right? They are very big, but you cannot guarantee that it is the it is a safest place for you to put your asset into their platform. So you are not sure their custody is safe or not, right? So there's but you have not some of the licensed platform, but that only provides service to kind of institutional customer, or or the customer who need to have the access to that platform, or you can have or there are a lot of limitation about you doing whatever trading, custody, or lendings, right? So I think that this is something definitely missing here in the centralized world. But DeFi can, if DeFi can really target this kind of the weakness of the centralized finance system and provide good enough service to the customer, I think they will choose to use DeFi instead of those kind of centralized solutions. So it's because users is very smart, they are able to figure out what kind of platform is suitable for them. So I think it's all about whether we select the right path for moving forward.
I totally agree with you. And what's funny is sometimes I've used some of these crypto exchanges, and sometimes I use like maybe more of a centralized like financial provider, whatever that may be. And sometimes these like crypto exchanges, sometimes they even have more security than your like bank login. Because I know like you could call bank support as long as you have someone's public information. They could probably hand over the account to the wrong person. But some of these DeFi apps, like maybe like you're using a DeFi app, they have like maybe a web-server interface. But as far as trust, it's like you think about like a DEX. You retain your private key. There's a smart contract. It's all open source code. It could be vetted, and I guess with another exchange, you don't know when you press that trade button, you don't know where that's going really. But with the DEX, you know where that's going. You could probably even watch a transaction happen in real time, and then and that kind of brings in, as far as like transaction. In the crypto world, I feel like we kind of won in proving that we could do like international transactions, because like when you try to send something through your traditional bank, I remember I sent a transaction to Europe, and I was like, okay, what's your bank account? What's the person's Swift code? What's their some other European identifier? And it was just a total mess, and the transaction took 2 weeks. But with DeFi, it's like we can do this almost instantaneous, even at the current state. I mean, if you have to wait maybe a few hours, you can wait a few hours, pay just a fraction of a cent to send a transaction that might normally take 2 weeks, and maybe even like a $35 charge just to wire out from your traditional bank. So I think I guess from I'm not sure if you're involved with like maybe traditional with traditional finance, with like traditional finance organizations and stuff. Maybe you have some insights there. Are do you think they're interested in like using these blockchain solutions? And have you ever talked around or see any trends about traditional finance being like, hey, this DeFi stuff is doing stuff like really efficiently, and maybe we can do that too? Or do you think, or what do us in crypto need to do to help get more exposure and more adoption throughout just the mainstream market?
Yeah, I first of all I would say I totally agree with you. I think there are a lot of centralized kind of financial systems to provide most of their service to our to most of the people. But the problem is that it's not kind of these two parties are not equals to each other, right? So the centralized entity are so big, so kind of they are not in the equal kind of side, so that's why a centralized entity can give a lot of troubles when you do whatever things you want to do, like remittance, cross-border remittance, just even a simple transactions or a lot of things. So this is because two parties are not equal to each other. So the peer-to-peer kind of transactions and use cases will definitely solve the problem. So this is really, really the key here. It's really, really important, but it's like a very kind of like a big vision. So maybe take a long time for us to fully commit to it. I think speak of these things. I don't think centralized whatever the traditional finance system will do anything related to DeFi, because from their body or from their mind, a lot of things are totally kind of like centralized, but which is okay, and they probably be able to provide good kind of custody solutions. They probably provide a good lending product to the high network like customers. They are able to do all of that, I think. But I don't see any reason, any kind of trend for these kind of kind of companies to work on DeFi kind of thing. So all kind of DeFi solution use cases must come from the ecosystem, come from the community, come from the startups. I don't see big players in the traditional world. We're moving to that. I don't think that's the trend. But for us, I think we proved that 2 years ago. We proved that ICO is a really a great use cases for the early stage startups to raise money for the raise their customers to invest into it. But the point is like the ICOs turn into a runway for a lot of illegal kind of activity happens. So what I'm saying is that the trend for DeFi is definitely true. The startups work on different DeFi projects definitely promising, but how to avoid the bunch of illegal things, how to make sure everything goes smoothly according to the current kind of regulation framework. That's and not go up beyond the lines, not crazily do anything crazy. I think that's the real question the industry need to think about. So eventually you just cannot let it raise like randomly, and that will cause all kind of problem, that's for sure, because we already proved that 2 years ago. So how to grow the DeFi quickly without having a lot of bad activity and bad kind of things. So if that is the things we can achieve, I think we are able to achieve at a level that this kind of things will go to mainstream.
And from what you said, it seems like the policy side is like one of the milestones for just the just the whole crypto ecosystem as a whole. And because I think, and there's so much value within the ecosystem, because ICOs, people say, people have their opinions about ICOs, but it is a use case and it is providing value. Like I think companies spend multi-millions of dollars just for compliance when it comes to maybe they're a publicly traded company. Just that whole infrastructure is multi-millions of dollars. But the ecosystem has proven that someone who could write a smart contract, deploy a website, could have all that corporate governance, could have all that as far as if you're having shared distribution and stuff. And I'm not a policy person, but it would seem like if you could wean that into if you could get that through the policy side, then I think just entrepreneurship would grow as a whole, because everyone has all the access to deploying their crowd sale, getting investors, and as long as the regulatory area, as long as you're compliant with that, then it seems like it'll be healthy for the market and healthy for society as a whole. People have great ideas. I mean, I know some people. There's so many entrepreneurs out there that have great ideas, but they can't afford $5 million to IPO or something, whatever they're trying to do. But with crypto, it's like, oh my gosh, the barrier entry is so low to just execute like an ICO or crowd sale. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think you are right. I think from my standpoint, I think it's not only about the companies who are not able to raise enough money from their kind of VCs, but also it's unfair for the standard retail customer, retail people. These kind of people don't have the access to investing to early stage startups or promising project, can only give the money to the professional and institutional to invest in the either secondary market or even the primary market, or even they don't have the access, didn't reach out the kind of like the demand and the requirements for investing to the early stage and from investing to the venture capital side, right? That's the situation. So the limitation of the accessibility for the people to do investment is really a problem to solve. Is I see it as a great kind of solution also to solve that problem as well. So it is really, without a doubt, all the use cases like ICO or the DeFi we are talking about are disruptive and really will benefit the retail customer and benefit the company startups a lot. That's without a doubt. And from the policy side, I think what I suggest is all the foundations, all the entities, all the startups in the industries take a more positive attitude toward the regulations and start to communicating and more kind of start to communicating with the regulator. I think it's very important to make sure to the industry and the government cooperate closely with each other instead of just close the door of communications. And I think that's super important, and that eventually will benefit the industry. For us, ETC Lab have already built relationship and actually seeking for the communication opportunity with different governments. We have kind of talked to the government here in Asia in different jurisdictions as well. We try to give them a better idea and a sense about what we are doing here, what kind of things what we are providing here, and try to get a better sense of what kind of things we need to avoid to do in the future. So and also speaking of the Ethereum Classic specifically, I think the announcement from the chairman of CFTC about the definition was just super positive. and it should definitely be valued as a commodity, which will attract a lot of either capitals or kind of mainstream people to move into the ecosystem and build stuff on top of it as well. So I think I think probably mostly capital side, but it's anyway, it's good for the growth of the ecosystem of the Ethereum Classic. So on that side, I'm pretty sure ETC is one of probably the most promising project among of them.
Yeah, and what you said about the SEC's definition of ETC as a commodity, from a personal perspective, I've been so scared of all these projects doing staking, especially if it's like on a public chain, or let's say there's a fork you don't know, but let's say the tax man tracks your address, is like, oh, you have these snapshotted coins on this other fork chain, or I see you getting dividend rewards. And like from a personal perspective, I'm terrified about like how the staking is going to work. I think over time they'll probably figure it out, but with Ethereum Classic remaining proof of work and arguably remaining a commodity, we like users don't have this this staking overhead or getting like this dividend that they have to worry about, especially since it's a public chain. Those things could be arguably traceable. So, but oh yeah, it's pretty cool to hear. I remember I was talking to a regulator over here in my state back in 2017, and they said what do you, and they came there saying like, hey, we want to be here to see how regulation's going to work and stuff. And they're like, where do you think crypto is going to be in 5 years? And I guess that was 2017, so we're like 3 years in. So in two, and when I told that regulator person, I'm like, I don't know, maybe we'll see regulatory panic, because I think maybe the policy side or all these regulators, maybe they're moving a little too slowly. Because if you look at like the ecosystem, it moves like so fast. Sometimes I think we're maybe outpacing the regulators, maybe outpacing traditional finance. And maybe we just need that olive branch to work together. And crypto doesn't have to be scary decentralized. It could benefit the real world, benefit real governments. It just trickles down to the internet of value. It's really cool. So
yeah, I think you make a good point. I think the proof of stake is really a lot of protocol working on that, but I think it still remain unclear about whether government will define this as a commodity or security. But then ETC as a stick to POW as a long history protocols, I think will definitely be a commodity.
that's cool. Well, I see we're fairly into it now. I guess we could end here with like maybe a final question. What do you think is one thing in ETC that one thing that ETC could focus on, particularly in 2020? What's something that you could that you definitely see being like to bring ETC to the next level in 2020?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think I think ETC are working on so many like excellent stuff. They can everything can go like go go to your next level in 2020. So maybe I'm very bullish on Sim Classic, but since this is this is a good question. I think based on the kind of situation that Ethereum transfer from proof of stake to proof of work. Proof of work to proof of stake. ETC will stick to POW. So in long run, we are kind of stick to version that to be the, whatever POW version of Ethereum, kind of things like this. So what we think is, since we have a fully comparable infrastructure and protocol level of things with Ethereum, so we probably are able to build a really great, ecosystem on top of ETC. So what I will see that this year the ETC will have great use cases and a killer app built on top of it. That will increase the value of network a lot. So I think, for sure we have a lot of progress on the other side, like policy, like listing, like more partnership, but this is the things that I'm really excited about. I think we will see kind of great use cases, on the ETC network and bring ETC to the next level this year.
Yeah, that's awesome, James. Well, yeah, appreciate you coming on this podcast. And I guess, if people want to learn more about ETC Labs, you go to etclabs.org. And also, if you're a developer coding in the garage on some awesome DeFi app, maybe you don't know how to launch it, don't know about compliance or anything, ETC Labs is here to support you guys out there. So, I appreciate everyone listening. James, thank you for coming on, and I hope everyone has a very wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to see you to building things in the ETC ecosystem. Thank you.